Today we get to look at some code and actually change it. So here's the class. The class is called Standard Draw. It's from this website used in Princeton.edu's Java class, and there's a book associated with it. Kevin Wayne is the one that wrote the class. But I wanted to use it just to basically showing some techniques to refactor code, make it a little more understandable, maybe a little bit easier to deal with, and maybe potentially make it something that we could use for other things. So in this class, you notice everything is static, and there's no there's no non-static methods in here. It's all static data variables, all static methods. There's a constructor, but I don't think that ever gets used because everything is static. But that's okay. We can still work with this. What I want to work with right now is the way it draws shapes. So there's a circle function that basically draws an outline of the circle, and there's a filled circle that draws a filled-in circle. And you notice as I switch between these two in the structure pane of IntelliJ that there's really no difference between the two except for the function name and what function in off-screen they're calling. So that's a lot of duplication. And when you see other functions like ellipse, it's kind of the same way. Really not much difference at all there. Same for squares and rectangles and polygons. Actually, you can't see that. Polygon is kind of a longer method, but here it's offscreen.draw versus here it's offscreen.fill. Okay, so let's take a look at our circle function. So what we want to do is change how it does the drawing, because everything else is the same. It uses the same shape. This ellipse 2D is a class, an AWT class. It has an inner class called double. You can go look at that. This is a constructor for it. But here's the class. It extends ellipse 2D. Ellipse 2D is a rectangular shape which implements the shape interface. And all these are in the Java AWT package. Let's go back to our circle function. So as I was saying, we just want to change what we do here. We want this to be something that we can swap out. Because really what we want to do is figure out a way just to vary this behavior. So what if we had a class that, so what if we had an interface that would let us subclass it so that we could have one that does drawing and one that does filling, and then we could use that interface here in this function to either draw an outline shape or a filled shape. So let's see what that might look like. Let me just create a class here called Shape Outliner. And I will add a constructor. And we will construct it with one of these things. This is a graphics 2D. This is actually in the same package as this standard draw class. So we will take an graphics 2D, and we'll just call that screen. Alright, and we will introduce, we'll create a field for that. And then let's just add a draw method. It's going to take a shape. That's the shape that we looked at earlier. Yes, APT shape. And really all it's going to do is tell the screen to draw the shape. So now that we have that, we can actually use that here. I'm going to put it up at the beginning of this method, and you'll see why here in a minute. I'm going to want a new shape. I wanted shape outliner. That's definitely not what I want here then. Yes, it's what I want here. So I'm going to create a new shape outliner. Now I'm going to give it off screen. And now it's going to complain because standard draw cannot be referenced from a static context. Make circle non-static or something else. So what really needs to be done here is we're going to make this class static. And that cleans that up. Now I'm going to introduce a variable for that. And we'll just call it outliner. And now I'm going to use outliner down here. So before it was called screen.draw on the off-screen member, but now it's doing exactly the same thing as what it was doing before, but just through this class. So that's great, but what about the filled circle? Well, we need something that we'll call fill instead of draw. So let's do this first. So we talked earlier, it'd be nice to have an interface. Go to that public, and now let's extract that interface. And we can select that as our abstract function in the interface. And we're going to call it shape. How about draw shape? How about just drawer? I'll think of a better name later. Yes, I want to see if there's any other places I can use that interface. Oh, yes, I do want to add it to get. Maybe I won't even check this in. But here, I do want to change my outliner that I've got in circle to a drawer. So that's implementing that. That's overriding or implementing the draw method on that. And my circle method is of that type. Now let's go to filled circle. Oh, wait. before we do that, let's go to this drawer class. Let's look at the interface that it created for us. It's very simple, just has a draw method that takes a shape. So let's create another implementation of that. And we'll call it a shape filler. Okay. And we're going to implement that. I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is move it make it an inner class of std draw. So let's now go look at that. And so here we are, all the way at the bottom. I can move that up. Let's just go ahead and cut that. And put here next to this guy. We're going to create a new shape filler. And we want to get it off screen just like we did in the other one. Although there is no constructor yet for it, so we'll just go ahead and create that constructor. Yep, it is a graphics 2D. We can just call it screen. And we'll assign that, create a field for that. And also, let's look at, let's go back here to our filled circle function. Finish this out. We actually want that to be a drawer. We want to use our interface here just the same way. We can call it filler. Now you see here it's calling offscreen.fill. So that's what we're going to want to do in our implementation. So let's copy that and paste it here, and we'll pass it the shape. But we don't want to use off screen, we want to use screen. Okay, and now I think we're ready to use this guy here. So instead of offscreen.fill, we're going to call filler.draw. Okay. So now, let's look at the circle. And build circle. So not much difference between the two. And actually, if we rename these, let's call it drawer. Let's rename this one also to drawer. Now these two functions are almost identical except for what they create, which is good. So the part we wanted to make common to remove duplication of is exactly the same. So now let's go down here to our filled circle, and we will just select all of that code and extract a method. And let's call it draw circle. And now it's asking me if I want to replace the duplicates. I do, that's the whole point of this. So we will select replace. So now my draw is, sorry, my circle is draw circle, XY radius. Draw circle, XY radius. It's just a different implementation of a drawer. And in fact, I can inline that. And here I can inline that. And so then I've got everything I need right there in one line. So I'm going to draw a circle at XY of radius that, and it's going to be outlined. And here I'm going to draw a circle at XY of radius that, and it's going to be filled. And so now my draw circle has the same signature as the previous two methods, with the exception of, or the addition of drawer. That's used right there. So now we can look at the rest of this. So now I'm going to move these back out of this class, which I can do with moving a class to upper level. And I'll add that to and same with this. Now instead of having two functions that do basically exactly the same thing except for their actual drawing, I just have one. Now I'm going to go through and maybe apply this to my ellipse class, and or the ellipse function I should say, is not a class. So I'm going to do the same thing for ellipse and square and rectangle and polygon. Well, let me just do that real quick. Alright, so we're done. Now the only thing that we might want to change is we're creating one of these every time we do a drawing, but it's always off screen that we're passing it, and there's really no state to these other than that screen, so the drawing is just based on what is passed into it. So a next step might be to create or assign that to a field, a class member of standard draw. so that we create it once and just use it in all these classes or all these functions. But we'll take that step next time. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of it. Next time we'll take a look at something different. Thanks. Bye.